Hi there, Maria Bartholdi at the video wall, joined by Marc Tobiasch, who's got kind of a spicy brew for us here, and a very kind of straightforward deck, Mono-Red Flame of Keld. So how did you arrive at this deck for this tournament?
Yeah, basically I expected a lot of like mid-rangey decks, like trying to beat blue-white control, like by grinding, and the aggro deck of the format right now is kind of black-red, which evolved more into a mid-range deck as well. Like the one toughness creatures got worse because of Chain Whirler, so everybody got a little bit slower and tried to go over the top. And once people go too far over the top, the best way is to go under again, and so that's what I'm trying to do.
All right, let's take a look at three of the hallmark cards from your deck here. Goblin Chain Whirler, you mentioned this, you're playing for. There it is, the Flame of Keld, and 21 mountains just to drive the point home. Tell me, why on earth did you build a deck around Flame of Keld?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First, there's 21, isn't it 24 or 25, which most of the red decks play. So you're not playing as many 4-drops, that's why you can play less lands, so you're quicker. And the payoff card, because like you empty your hand faster, right? Because you have lower casting cost cards, is when you have no cards in hand, this card's pretty good. Like the first mode gets you back up, like fills your hand really fast, and then this mode is what you're playing for. Like just with the card next to it, it becomes Plague Wind, more or less.
And how good is Goblin Chain Whirler right now in the format?
It got a little worse, but also now it got a little bit better again. So it's in a weird spot, but it's still like you can combine it with stuff, or like just the 3/3 first strike body. Like with this deck, you get in really early damage because you have a lot of 1-drops, which are coming later. And then even if it can't attack, 3/3 first strike just holds off a lot of the stuff as well. So you get more time to like draw this or like go through the modes. So that's actually pretty good. And it still kills a lot of stuff. Like there's Llanowar Elf and other 1-toughness creatures out of the decks. So.
And you mentioned you really like the Flame of Keld. Like that card was important to you.
Yeah, like without this, I wouldn't be playing the deck. It's like I don't really like just attacking with creatures, and this gives me another avenue. And also just I think the mono-red decks in general, like or the Sly style decks, I guess they deal like 12 damage at the start pretty easily, but then the last 8 become really difficult. And with this, if you just play this, go through the modes, just don't die in the meantime. If you draw 2 burn spells, it's just over. Like a 3 damage burn spell becomes 5, shock deals 4, that's already 9. Or just draw this, which is 3. Like there's a lot of reach in the deck, which the other red decks don't have because they play Braids instead, for example, which don't go to the face.
You lost Ramunap Ruins, it's interesting to find another way to kind of get
exactly.
To the line.
That's what the deck was missing, and this is exactly what you want, I think.
All right, you talked about creatures being low to the ground. Let's take a look at some of your 1-drops here. Get to Lava Runner. Well, I love this card in Draft. How good is it in this deck?
Well, it's worse than this, but so this is one very important thing.
Yes, 2 toughness here on the Soulscar Mage and the Lava Runner.
Yeah, so that gets haste is very important in the later game because if you draw it off the flame, you can play it immediately and you get in the 4, which is important. It's a wizard, which is also very important, which comes up later. And it's just like you need a certain amount of 1-drops to get your hand empty for the flame and for Hazoret, which is also on a later slide. So it's not the best card in the deck. We're only running 3, but it does its job in like it fills the role in multiple ways, and it's exactly what you want. Also, this got a little bit worse because of this.
Yeah, Bomat Courier's 1 toughness.
But in this deck, you empty your hand so fast. Like sometimes you can just crack it for 3 cards, even when they play the Chain Whirler on 3. And it's also just really, really good with the flame because the drawback of the flame is you can't set up your hand. But if you have a Bomat on like 3 and you cast the flame, after the trigger resolves, you get the 3 cards, go up to 6 next turn, and then that's a lot of burn you can have. So
that's
it's
sweet.
Pretty nice.
All right, let's take a look at some of the more traditional red cards here. Earthshaker Kenra, Hazoret the Fervent, and of course Kari Zev, Skyship Raider. We're used to seeing these in red shell.
Yeah, but like down to 2 because of, again, 1 toughness. You kind of still like having a couple 2-drops that lets you get in. Also, the Eternalize comes up. Like sometimes you just discard it or it dies, but it's like a shock, and sometimes it comes back. Well, this is obviously this is the other part of the get your hand empty card, right? It's the other payoff, but only 3 because it's still 4 mana, and you don't want to get clunked up with too many of them in hand. It's still really good, but like people are kind of ready for it, so it's not the absolute best, but it's still really good. And actually, this is the best 2-drop. It's a little bit harder to kill. It can attack through, and with flame, it just deals 7, which people don't think about. Like I've had people thinking they might survive the flame turn, but 7 from this was usually enough to end it.
And how about this activative ability on Hazoret
dealing
there?
4 is also like just last game I was playing the mirror, and he was like I put him to 6 with the flame going off next turn, so I go end of turn, discard for 2, untap, just draw for nothing he could do.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, let's look at your burn. Speaking of burn, Lightning Strike 4, Shock 4, Wizard's Lightning 4.
Yeah, so this is the reason the deck's viable. Like having Lightning Bolt most of the time. Well, 7 Wizards, it's like about 2/3 of the time you have one in play, I guess. And yeah, like I've killed on turn 3. Like I played turn 1 the Prowess. My opponent played a tap black-red land. Next turn I played the Prowess and the Lava Runner. My opponent played a Heart of Kirin. I went turn 3rd Mountain, triple Bolt, and that's 20 right there. Turn 3 kill in Standard.
Wow, I love it.
So yeah, this is what makes the deck tick, because you need a certain amount of like actual burn that goes to the face, and so like notice I'm not running a Braid because it doesn't go to the face. Like you really want to be able to cast all your cards before you play the Flame. Also, like against blue-white, for example, they don't have targets, so you get stranded. And this deck, all the cards are live in all the matchups, and you're just very fast, so that's what I like.
So how does the deck function if you don't have Flame in your hand?
Well, you have the stand-in Flame, which is Hazoret, and otherwise it's just a regular, faster mono-red deck. So yeah, there's a little bit of a problem if you don't draw Flame and you draw too many lands, which is also always the Sly problem. Like Flame kind of helps, but if you don't draw it, it doesn't help, of course. So we've had a joke going on that you're getting poisoned. Every mountain you play is a poison counter, and once you reach 10, you lose.
So how are you doing so far at the tournament with the deck?
I'm X1 right now.
Okay, and you're X1 overall at the tournament as well?
Yes.
All right.
I lost the mono-red mirror when I got poisoned twice. So.
Well, it's an awesome deck. Thank you so much for sharing it. Marc Tobiasch, more magic after this.